For months, the question has lingered, is Viktor Gyökeres really the man to lead Arsenal's line? Now, in 2026, something has shifted. After 3 goals in 2 games, and the most goals scored in all competitions of any Premier League player this year, what has changed? Is this a purple patch? Or are we finally seeing the real Viktor Gyökeres? We look to answer this and more in today's video. Welcome to Arsenal Unlocked. Welcome to the Red Vault. There is something I like to call the Arsenal tax. It pretty much doesn't matter who you are or what league you came from. Adapting to Mikel Arteta's system is a different beast entirely. It takes time to learn the triggers, the pressing angles, the sheer cognitive load of playing in this machine, because that's what we are, a well-oiled machine. It's something that players have spoken about when joining the club. Speaking with The Athletic a few years ago, Rice references the overwhelming nature of adapting to Arteta's tactical setup when he joined the club. He says, he'll ask us to break things down, like in terms of our pressing and where we should go. If that person drops, who goes there? Sometimes you feel a little bit on the spot because you don't know the answer. He goes on to say concerning a pre-season match against United, I wasn't really that fit, and that was when we really tried to play our game model. And you could just see that I was way out of my depth. I didn't really understand anything that was going on. There were some good moments when I was trying to learn it, but there were also some moments where you could see I needed to improve a lot. After that, I just watched a lot of training videos. And then on the training field, tried to really improve. Bear in mind that Rice is widely considered to be a kind of student of the game, highly adaptable and able to integrate new information into his playstyle. But even with that being the case, it doesn't change the fact that there was a period of adaptation that was necessary. Even though, of course, he largely passed the eye test from the jump. Half a season into his first year as an Arsenal player, there have been concerns if Viktor Gyökeres is the man to lead Arsenal's line. In a season that feels so pivotal, where the pressure to secure silverware has never been so high. And so I think it's important that when we broach the subject of whether Viktor Gyökeres is that guy, we need to do so measured against the reality of who the player is and what we need him to do, not the fantasy of the player that we thought we were getting. I think a lot of the discourse surrounding Gyokores has stemmed from a failure to understand the player. We've been used to the player leading our line to drop deep, link play, to be cute in the half spaces, and to facilitate the game of others, almost with scoring goals being a secondary outcome. And I don't want to talk down on this approach. It can and has been extremely effective. But this is simply not Gyökeres' game. There is a lack of technical sophistication to the way that he plays football. We can't pretend there isn't. In tight spaces, he can look frantic. He can look clumsy. He is, in many ways, a blunt instrument, a throwback, an old-school flat-track bully who is less concerned with how the ball gets into the net and more concerned with making sure that it just does. He's more of a sledgehammer than a scalpel. So when he does have a game that carries these limitations, it's not at all surprising that you expect him to deliver when it comes to his goal-scoring output. And it hasn't always felt like that's been delivered on this season. But there are some very promising signals that things are about to change. Viktor Gyökeres has now scored the most goals in all competitions of any Premier League player in 2026. He's the top scorer in all competitions for the club and has 3 in his last 2 in the league. So what's inspired this uptick in form? Should we expect to see a more consistent delivery of goals, or is this just a purple patch? Well, there has been a very specific emphasis in recent games to improving our verticality. In short, we are becoming more direct. Let's look at the tail of the tape from the Sunderland game. We are simply much more willing to get the ball forward early. Look at the third goal we scored, for example. From the moment of the clearance to the ball hitting the back of the net, it took just 11 seconds. Now this was in many ways just a run-of-the-mill counter-attack, but how often have we been in this exact situation and unable to produce an end result? There was a direct and intentional focus, not only to defend our goal as Sunderland looked to get a goal back, but to punish them for daring to try. That is the speed of transition we just haven't seen often this season. But the real story here, the thing that we need to emphasize, is the Kai Havertz factor. Because when you look at the numbers, the contrast is stark. As of right now, in 22 games, Bukayo Saka has played 1,164 minutes alongside Gyokores, producing just 1 joint goal participation. Martin Odegaard has likewise played 22 games with Gyokores, 933 minutes, and has 0 joint goal participations with him. Now, look at Havertz. He has played just 114 minutes with Gyokores over 4 games, and already has 2 joint goal participations, double the output of both Saka and Odegaard. There's a clear and discernible drive by Kai to facilitate. It looks like this could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. But I want to be clear, I don't think this necessarily is an indictment on Saka or Odegaard. They wait for the right conditions to be in place. They wait for the picture to be perfect. Something which, to be honest, is pretty typical of our approach as a whole. But as we start to see the consequences of this more direct play, don't be surprised to see them join in on the party too, as we see much more willingness to put the ball into a space and see what happens, to see what Gyokores can do. And right now, that willingness to embrace a little bit of chaos is exactly what Gyokores needs. But I think we need to zoom out, because the most bullish signal isn't just the goals, it's the blending. We are seeing a player who is becoming more adept at understanding the spaces he needs to take up, while the team is simultaneously learning how to find him. And this brings us to the core thesis of this video. Why is Viktor Gyökeres about to explode? It's because he's found the middle ground. There's almost this false binary in football, that to be a successful striker at a top club, you're either a 30-goal robot who touches the ball maybe 5 times a game, or you're the false 9 who knits the play together. Gyökeres can occupy the space between these two extremes. He offers us an option that is completely atypical from our usual style of play. He gives us an outball. When the press is suffocating us, we don't have to play through or around anymore. We can go over. We can absorb pressure and release for him to chase down. And most of all, we can begin to trust him to do something. Now, we have to be honest. The Premier League is a different beast to Portugal. The defenders here are faster, smarter, stronger. You can't just rely on brute force to win duels against the likes of a Saliba, Gabriel, or a Van Dijk. You have to be smarter. And as he becomes more accustomed to the league, we are seeing him develop a greater understanding of how to maneuver these defenders. And this is where reaching the next level comes for him. He's learning how to use his body to pin them. He's learning when to engage and when to spin into the channel. When and when not is the right time to move. We know from his sporting days that he has the engine to be a channel running monster. And as that acclimatization continues, as he figures out the physical puzzle of the Premier League, we very well could see those two worlds collide. The striker who knows where to be in the box, and the striker who knows how to bully his way there. So, is Viktor Gyökeres about to explode? I think he is. But we need to be careful with our definitions, because the explosion we are talking about isn't necessarily him chasing down Haaland for the golden boot. It isn't about him suddenly scoring 35 goals a season or becoming the main character every single week. That's the wrong way to frame our expectations. The real explosion is him becoming exactly the striker that we need him to be. The striker who's capable of turning those frustrating 0-0 draws into ugly 1-0 wins, who kills games dead when we have a narrow lead. The striker who gives us another option, a different way to win. He leads the squad in goals scored with 13 goals in all competitions, 8 of which have come in the league. And I think there's good cause that those numbers will increase at a more exponential rate. But in any case, if he finishes the season with 15 to 20 goals and a handful of assists, where we needed a different way in, around, or over, or if his position on the pitch creates more space for other players to receive the glory, then that is the explosion. And if that helps deliver us a Premier League title or more come the end of the season, then nobody is going to care how many times he got to lift his hands over his mouth after scoring. They're only going to care about the trophies he's lifting at the end of the season. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. I'll see you in the next one.